Welcome to Hypnos Stories. I am so glad you're here tonight. Before we begin, I want to take just a moment to say something to you directly. If you enjoy this channel, if these stories have helped you find rest on a difficult night, or given you a few hours of peace in the middle of a busy week, please consider leaving a like on this video. It takes just a second, and it means more than you might think. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Hypnos Stories. Subscribing is completely free, and it ensures that new stories find their way to you each week. Stories inspired by ancient mythology, by the wonders of the natural world, by the deep and quiet places that exist just beyond the edges of ordinary life. We also love hearing from you in the comments. If there is a story you would like us to tell, a myth you have always been curious about, a place in the natural world you would like to visit through sound and imagination, a civilization whose gods and heroes you would like to know better, leave it in the comments below. Every suggestion is read. Every story request is considered. This channel exists because of you, and it grows because of you. And the stories we tell are shaped, more than you might realize, by what you ask for. So thank you for being here, for listening, for trusting us with your nights. And now, let us begin. Find a comfortable position. Let your body settle completely into whatever is beneath you. Feel the weight of your shoulders, releasing the weight of your arms, heavy and warm, the weight of your legs, sinking deeper. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it gently for just a moment and let it go, slowly, through your mouth. Again, breathe in and out. With every breath, the day grows further away. The noise of it, the urgency of it, all of it softening now, dissolving like mist in the quiet of an early morning. There is nothing left to carry tonight, nothing left to solve, nothing left to prove, nothing left to finish, just this moment, just this darkness, just this breath. You have made it through another day, whatever that day contained, whatever it asked of you, whatever it took from you, whatever it left unfinished and waiting for tomorrow. It is behind you now. And this moment, right here, right now, belongs entirely to you. No obligations, no demands, no one needing anything from you. Just rest. There is a story waiting for you tonight. An ancient story. A story that has been told and retold for thousands of years, because something in it is true in a way that goes deeper than facts, deeper than history, deeper than anything that can be fully explained. It is a story made for exactly this moment, for exactly this quietness, for exactly the kind of rest that your body is already beginning to find. So breathe and let go and follow me. Tonight, I am going to tell you about the most powerful goddess in the Norse world, not the most feared, not the most distant or the most inscrutable, but the most powerful in the specific sense that power takes when it is rooted not in force or cleverness or the accumulated wisdom of sacrifice, but in feeling, in love and grief, and the willingness to pursue both to the very edges of the known world and beyond. This is the story of Freya, goddess of love, goddess of war, goddess of magic so deep and so old that even Odin himself sought her out to learn it. She is, in many ways, the most fully realized figure in all of Norse mythology, a being of genuine complexity, of contradictions that do not resolve neatly, of a nature that contains within it both the tenderness of love and the ferocity of battle, and the particular grief of someone who has loved deeply and lost and refused to stop looking. She wept gold. This is one of the things the old texts tell us about Freya, that when she wept, her tears fell as gold or as amber, depending on which text you read, which tradition you follow. The amber washed up on the shores of Scandinavia, and the people who found it called it Freya's tears, and understood that they were holding in their hands the physical residue of a goddess's grief. That image, a goddess weeping gold, contains within it everything that Freya is. The preciousness of it, the pain of it, the way that in her world, as in all worlds, the most beautiful things are often born from the deepest losses. Close your eyes. Let your breath slow. The Norse world is cold tonight, as it so often is. That particular clean cold of northern places, where the air is sharp and clear, and the stars seem closer than they do anywhere else, burning with a brightness that suggests they are paying attention. There is a story here worth hearing, a goddess worth knowing. Follow me into the old dark. Let that image of gold tears settle into you now. Something precious falling from something broken. The strange alchemy of grief becoming beauty. Breathe and rest. Freya belonged to a tribe of gods called the Vanir. This is important because Freya is not simply one of the Aesir, the gods of Asgard, the gods of Odin and Thor and Baldur, though she lived among them for most of the stories we have about her. The Vanir were older in some ways, more connected to the earth, associated with fertility and harvest, and the cycling of seasons, and the deep magic of growing things, a magic that operated differently from the more martial, more sky-oriented power of the Aesir. There had been a war in the old stories between the Aesir and the Vanir, a great conflict between two tribes of gods that ended not in the victory of one side, but in a treaty. And as part of that treaty, hostages were exchanged. Freya came to Asgard as one of those hostages, along with her brother Freyr and her father Njord. She was not a prisoner exactly. She had status in Asgard, respect, a place at the table of the gods. But she had come from somewhere else, and that elsewhere was always part of her. A quality of difference, of being both inside and outside, the community she inhabited, that gave her a perspective the other gods did not entirely share. She brought with her the magic of the Vanir. Cedar. This is perhaps the most significant thing Freya carried from her original world, a form of magic so powerful and so different from anything the Aesir practiced that when Odin sought to learn it, he sought her out specifically. Cider was concerned with fate, with the threads of what was and what would be, with the ability to see the patterns of existence, and, in some cases, to alter them. It was practiced primarily by women in the Norse world. Not exclusively, but primarily, and the practice of it by men was considered something that required explanation, something that existed slightly outside the ordinary categories. Odin learned it anyway. He wanted what it offered, the sight, the knowledge, the ability to move within the structure of fate, rather than simply being moved by it, and Freya taught him. This alone tells you something significant about the hierarchy of power in the Norse world, whatever the martial stories might suggest. The god who hung on the world tree for 9 days to gain wisdom. The god who gave an eye for a drink from Mimir's well. That god went to Freya to learn what she knew. Let the depth of that knowledge settle into you now. Power that is older than the familiar structures. wisdom that runs beneath the surface of the visible world. Breathe and rest. Freya had a husband. His name was Odd. And here is where the story becomes something more complicated than a catalog of powers and attributes. Odd is, by the standards of Norse mythology, a remarkably obscure figure. He appears in the texts primarily as an absence. He was there. Freya had a husband. They had daughters together, the most famous of whom was named Hnoss, whose name meant treasure or jewel, a name that speaks to the quality of love that produced her. But Odd left. The texts do not tell us clearly why. He wandered. He went away into the wide world and did not come back. And the old stories give us very little detail about where he went, or what drew him there, or whether he intended to return. What they do tell us, what they return to repeatedly as the most important fact about this departure, is what it did to Freya. She wept, she searched, she traveled through the 9 worlds looking for her husband, moving through foreign lands and strange peoples and places that had no name in any language she knew, asking everywhere she went whether anyone had seen Odd. And as she traveled, she wept, and her tears, wherever they fell on earth, became gold. And her tears, wherever they fell into the sea, became amber. And the people of the Norse lands, for generations, would find these tears washed up on their shores and hold them to the light and understand that they were holding something sacred. The grief of a goddess made tangible, love's cost given physical form. There is something in this that goes beyond the simply mythological, something about the particular nature of love that keeps searching even when the search seems futile, that refuses the easy comfort of giving up, that find beauty even in loss. Freya searched for Odd across all the worlds. Whether she found him, the texts are characteristically ambiguous about this. Some traditions suggest a reunion. Others leave the search ongoing, Freya still moving through foreign lands, still weeping gold, still looking. Perhaps the ongoing search is the point. Perhaps love of that quality does not resolve neatly. Perhaps it simply continues. Let that searching settle into you now. The love that keeps moving, even when the destination is uncertain. The grief that leaves something precious in its wake. Breathe and rest. Freya had a necklace, Brisingamen. It is described in the old texts as the most beautiful object in the 9 worlds, a necklace of extraordinary craftsmanship, made by 4 dwarves who were masters of their art, in the way that the best Norse craftsmen were masters, beings for whom the creation of beautiful objects was not a trade, but a calling, a form of devotion expressed in metal and fire. The story of how Freya obtained it is complicated, and the texts that tell it vary in their details, as Norse texts tend to do. What is consistent is this: Freya wanted it with a desire that was total and uncompromising. When she saw Brisingamen for the first time, in the underground forges of the dwarves, she understood immediately that she would do whatever was necessary to have it. She wore it from that day forward. It became part of her, not simply an accessory, not simply jewelry, a part of her identity, her power, her presence in the 9 worlds. When Loki stole it, as Loki eventually stole everything that could be stolen in the long trajectory of his story, Freya's response was not the helpless grief of someone who had been robbed. It was fury, specific, targeted, purposeful fury. The halls of Asgard shook. The old texts describe this with a detail that is almost physical. The specific quality of Freya's anger when Brisingamen was taken was something that registered in the structure of the spaces it moved through, a force that left traces. She got it back. Of course she got it back. The story of Freya and Brisingamen is not a story about loss. It is a story about the particular quality of desire. What it looks like when someone knows what they want with complete certainty and is willing to do what is necessary to have it. This is Freya's nature in all its aspects. She loves with that certainty. She grieves with that certainty. She wants with that certainty. And she acts on all of it without apology. Let that certainty settle into you now. The particular clarity of knowing exactly what you want and moving toward it without hesitation. Breathe and rest. Freya was also a goddess of war. This surprises people sometimes, given the other aspects of her nature. The love, the grief, the gold tears, the searching through foreign lands for a lost husband. But in the Norse understanding, love and war were not opposites. They were expressions of the same underlying quality, the intensity of engagement with what matters, the willingness to put everything on the line for something you believe in, the specific kind of courage that comes not from the absence of fear, but from the presence of something you care about more than your own safety. Freya received half of all those slain in battle. This is the detail that most distinguishes her from the more familiar Norse battlefield figures, from Odin, who took the other half of the slain to Valhalla, his great hall of warriors preparing for Ragnarok. Freya took her half to Folkvangr, her field. Her hall was called Sessrumnir, a name that means something like spacious in seats, a hall large enough to hold many, and the warriors who came to her, the half of every battle's dead who were hers, found something different from what waited in Valhalla. Not the endless training for the final battle. Not the preparing and preparing and preparing for a conflict everyone knew was coming. Something quieter. Something that the old texts do not describe in as much detail as Valhalla, perhaps because what Freya offered was harder to render in the epic language of Norse poetry. Rest, perhaps, or healing, or simply the presence of someone who understood what had been lost, who received the dead not as soldiers to be deployed, but as people who had been fully alive and were now something else. Freya wept gold even for warriors. The goddess who knew grief intimately was the one who received those who had died in the most violent circumstances the Norse world offered. There is a logic in this that goes deeper than simple mythology. Who better to receive the grievously dead than the one who has never stopped grieving? Who better to hold what has been lost than the one whose tears are themselves a kind of keeping? Let that understanding settle into you now, that those who have known the most loss are sometimes the best equipped to hold the grief of others, that the weeping does not diminish the strength. It is the strength. Breathe and rest. Freya traveled in a chariot pulled by 2 cats. This detail delights people, and it should. It is one of those specific, vivid, unexpected details that Norse mythology does so well, grounding its divine figures in images that are simultaneously dignified and somehow human in their particularity. 2 cats, not wolves like Odin's companions, not ravens like his messengers, not an 8-legged horse or a hammer-throwing chariot. Cats, independent, imperious, creatures who belong to no one and yet choose to affiliate themselves with certain people, on their own terms, in their own time, for reasons that remain ultimately their own. It is a perfect image for Freya. She also had a cloak made of falcon feathers that allowed its wearer to transform into a falcon and fly between the realms. She lent this cloak. She lent it to Loki more than once when speed and flight were needed in service of some divine emergency, which, given the frequency of divine emergencies in Asgard, was fairly often. She lent it without being asked twice, without demanding elaborate explanations or specific assurances about how it would be used or when it would be returned. She gave what was needed when it was needed. This generosity is also characteristic. Freya was not hoarding. She was not protective of her power or her possessions in the way that certain powerful beings are protective, keeping themselves surrounded by barriers that ensure no one comes too close. She was present, she engaged, she gave, she loved. And when she lost, and she lost repeatedly, because that is what happens when you engage with the world fully rather than keeping yourself at a careful distance from it, she wept, and her tears were gold, and she kept going. There is a quality of resilience in Freya that is easy to overlook because it does not present itself as resilience usually presents itself in heroic traditions, as stoicism, as the refusal to show pain, as the keeping of grief locked away behind composure. Freya's resilience is the opposite of that. She shows everything. She weeps openly. She searches openly. She loves openly. And she keeps doing all of it without hiding any of it for as long as she exists. That is not weakness. That is a very particular and very demanding kind of strength. Let that strength settle into you now. The courage of remaining open when open means being hurt. The resilience of someone who has wept gold and kept searching. Breathe and rest. There is a story about Freya and the giants that reveals something essential about her nature and about the respect, or the fear, which in Norse mythology often functioned as a kind of respect that other beings held for her. The giants wanted her. This is a recurring motif in the stories, various giants, at various points, making various attempts to claim Freya as a bride, to take her from Asgard by force, or by negotiation, or by elaborate tricks. None of them succeeded. In the story of Thor and the stolen hammer, which you may remember, the giant Thrym's condition for returning Mjolnir was exactly this: Freya as his bride. The gods brought this proposal to Freya. Her response was the response of someone who is very clear about what they will and will not accept. The hall shook. Her necklace, Brisingamen, shattered under the force of her fury. She was not frightened. She was not helpless. She was enraged at the presumption, at the idea that she could be used as a bargaining chip, that her person could be offered in exchange for something the gods needed, that she was a thing to be transferred rather than a being with her own will and her own choices. The gods did not press the point. They found another way. But what this story reveals, beyond the immediate plot, is something about Freya's position in the divine world. She was coveted, yes, which is simply the story of being powerful and beautiful in a world full of beings who want to possess what they cannot match. But she was not possessible. She was desired and unattainable, not because she was distant or cold or protected by barriers, but because she was entirely herself, entirely committed to her own nature, entirely unwilling to be made into something she was not for someone else's convenience. The giants wanted her because she was Freya, and they could not have her because she was Freya. The same quality that attracted them was the quality that made their attraction futile. You cannot possess what defines itself. Let that understanding settle into you now. The particular freedom of someone who is entirely themselves, who cannot be taken because they have never been available for taking. Breathe and rest. The Norse world that Freya inhabited was, in many ways, a world that did not make things easy for its inhabitants. The gods knew their world would end. They knew the wolf was bound, but would eventually break free. They knew the serpent circled the world and would one day rise from the sea. They knew the fire giant waited at the edge of everything with a sword that would one day sweep across the 9 worlds. They lived with this knowledge, and they lived anyway. Freya, in this context, is perhaps the most remarkable of them all. She knew what the others knew, the shape of the ending, the approach of Ragnarok, the loss that was coming for everything she had ever loved, and she wept gold for everything she had already lost. And she kept the magic alive, and she received the dead into her hall with the particular warmth of someone who understands grief from the inside. And she searched for Ode across the 9 worlds. And she traveled in her chariot, pulled by 2 cats who went where they chose, and deigned to take her along. And she wore Brisingamen like armor, like identity, like the physical embodiment of the principle that what is truly yours cannot finally be taken from you. She was not diminished by her grief. She was not simplified by her love. She was not contained by any single aspect of her enormous and contradictory nature. She was Freya, Vanadis, Lady of the Vanir, Gefn, the Giver, Horn, the one made of flax, the ancient and the earthy, Mardal, the one who illuminates the sea. She had many names because she was many things, and the Norse people who loved her understood that the multiplicity was not inconsistency, but completeness. A being who contained love and grief and war and magic and generosity and fury, and the willingness to weep gold in foreign lands while searching for something she had lost. All of it at once, all of it real, all of it Freya. The amber still washes up on the shores of Scandinavia, gold-colored, warm to the touch, the physical residue of a goddess's grief, preserved in the material world long after the world that produced it has been forgotten by most. Pick it up. Hold it to the light. You are holding something that was once a tear, precious, warm, made beautiful by the very pain that produced it. And now the story is complete. Freya rests in Folkvanger tonight. Her hall is full. Her cats are settled at her feet. Brisingamen catches the starlight. Somewhere in the 9 worlds, Ode walks, and somewhere behind him, at whatever distance the years have placed between them, Freya is still searching, still weeping gold, still moving through the world with her whole heart open, as she always has, as she always will. Good night. And so the story ends, as all stories must end, not with a final tidy resolution that leaves nothing unresolved, but with the quiet sense that something has been completed, that a journey has been made, that you have traveled somewhere ancient and returned gently to this moment, to this darkness, to this warmth, to this slow and steady breath. Your body is heavy now. Your mind is still. The thoughts that were moving through you when this evening began have settled. The way leaves settle after a long wind has passed through them, slowly and completely, until the air is still again, and the only sound is the quiet of a world at rest. There is nothing left to carry, nothing left to figure out, nothing waiting for you in this moment except the rest that your body has been asking for, and that you have finally given it permission to take. You have done enough today. You have been enough today. Whatever the day asked of you, you met it. And now it is time to let the day go, completely, without reservation. The way the sun lets go of the sky each evening, completely and without hurry, trusting that it will rise again when it is time, trusting that the night will hold what the day has released. Let your breath find its own rhythm now, slower than before, deeper than before, the breath of someone who is no longer trying to do anything at all, just breathing, just being, in and out, in and out. The ancient world is quiet tonight. The gods have returned to their halls. The heroes have found their rest. The rivers and the forests and the deep places of the earth are still. And you are part of that stillness now, held by it, carried by it, safe within it. There is nowhere you need to go tonight, nothing you need to become, no version of yourself that needs to be maintained or performed or presented to anyone, just you, here, in the dark, breathing, resting, already without any effort at all, doing exactly what you need to do. If sleep comes now, let it come. Welcome it the way you would welcome an old friend arriving after a long journey, without fuss, without ceremony, with only the simple and complete relief of something that belongs arriving exactly when and where it belongs. And if sleep takes a little longer, that is all right too. There is no urgency here, no deadline, no correct pace at which sleep must arrive. Just this breath, and this one after that. Each one carrying you a little further from the day, a little deeper into the quiet, a little closer to the rest that is already waiting for you just beneath the surface of this moment. We will be here again. Another story, another night, another journey into the ancient and the quiet and the true. Until then, sleep well, dream gently, and thank you truly for spending this time with Hypnos Stories. Good night.